Hello there. My name is Alex, and today I'm going to be ranking all of the Star Wars movies from worst to best based on my humble opinion. I believe there's 12 total movies, so we're going to start at 12, work our way up to 1, and yeah, just going to have a lot of personal bias per usual. So let's get right into it. All right, starting out with number 12. There's just so many great Star Wars movies. It's so hard to pick a worst one. They're all bangers, they're all amazing. But sadly, at number 12, I'm going to go with The Last Jedi. Whew, a lot to say about this movie. Uh, I was looking for nice things to say about it, couldn't really find any. The cons I'm going to go through, though, are my least favorite thing about this movie is the scene where it builds up with Kylo attacking like the rebel ship and blowing up their like command post, and like Leia, it like teasing Leia's death, and then she just isn't dead and just flies through space totally fine. That's literally like my least favorite part of this movie. My next gripe with this movie is the character Rose. She is just so bad, and I don't know why they didn't just like stick with Ray and Finn being a thing. Let's just add in some other random unlikable character with no personality to put Finn on for some reason. Another issue I have with this movie is they kept the trio apart, being Finn, Poe, and Ray. Like all the good Star Wars movies, like they have that golden trio that they keep together. And this movie literally kept them apart the entire movie. Like Ray was off training with Luke, Poe was on the ship doing his own thing, Finn was on the ship at the beginning, but then he goes and does his whole side quest thing that sucked. Like his entire side quest in this entire movie was just awful. And I also really hated what they did with Luke as a character. Like, why is Luke a hermit? Why is Luke not helping defeat this new empire? And why did he doubt Kylo when he was able to turn Vader? Like, he can turn Darth Vader to the light side, but this little emo kid is like starting to show signs he's turning to the dark side and tries to kill him in his sleep. Like, I know that's not exactly what happened, but like, come on. But yeah, that's my number 12. At number 11, we are going with The Rise of Skywalker. This movie was probably equally as hated by fans, like generally speaking, but I liked it a little bit more than The Last Jedi. I feel like The Last Jedi really just derailed this trilogy and just set up The Rise of Skywalker for failure because it's like, where do you go from that? But they did throw in some nostalgia bait that I liked. I liked all the Jedi talking to Rey when Rey was like kind of building up to the climax of killing Palpatine. Like that part actually was kind of cool to me. And just overall, I just didn't think was as bad. I think bringing Palpatine back randomly was really stupid. Like just shoehorning him in because they had no other villain because they killed Snoke and they didn't really know what else to do. Like so weird. It also had the "I'm the spy" scene. Don't even want to talk about that. Another gripe that I have with this movie is they really just wasted the potential of the Knights of Ren. Like I feel like in all the trailers for the sequel trilogy, like they set up the Knights of Ren to like be these badass dudes that were fighting with Kylo Ren, and then they just did nothing with them. Like they were literally used to fight Kylo Ren and were just killed off as cannon fodder. I don't know, it was super boring. I also think Kylo dying was really stupid. If anything, I feel like Kylo should have lived and Rey should have died. Just my opinion there. And the very end of "Who are you?" Rey Skywalker. Hated it. Ruined the movie for me. Like this movie wasn't going to be any higher, but that didn't give it any help at all. So that's my number 11. At number 10, I am going to go with the animated Clone Wars movie. This movie was pretty good, but did definitely have some drawbacks to it. I think the animation does not hold up. It's pretty ugly by today's standards. I think the inclusion of the Huts and how they got tied into this story was a good premise, but in execution, it ended up being kind of lame and underwhelming. I think there was more they could have done with the Huts to make it cooler. I also think like most casual Star Wars fans probably haven't seen this movie, so it's hard to put it any higher than this. But overall, it was a decent kickstart to the TV show, and the TV show went on to be very popular and very good, way better than this movie actually was. This movie also introduced Ahsoka, who ended up being a great character. She was kind of annoying in this movie, but the introduction of the character was in here. They had Asajj Ventress in here. If you don't include the original Clone Wars show, I think this was her first technical introduction. But cool characters, okay story, nothing special. All right, at number 9, I'm gonna go with Solo. Solo is probably the movie I've seen the least out of like every Star Wars movie. I just don't think it was, once again, it just wasn't very grand in scale. I don't think it was super necessary. I did really like the story of it though. It was a good origin story for Han Solo. I really liked the actors in it. Like this movie had Woody Harrelson, Donald Glover, Emilia Clarke, Alden Ehrenreich, I think is how you say his name. He actually was pretty good as Han Solo, but at the same time, like you're never going to replace Harrison Ford. Another thing I didn't really like about this movie is it like had a tease with Darth Maul at the end, but it's like that's not going anywhere. They didn't follow up with it at all because there's like no sort of sequel to that at all. But overall, decent movie. Didn't hate it, didn't love it once again. At number 8, we're getting our first prequel movie, Attack of the Clones. This movie, I have pretty mixed opinions on. Some parts of it I really love, some parts of it are cringe and just bad. My probably least favorite part is the whole droid factory scene with Anakin, Padme, and like R2 and C3PO. Like that whole scene to me is just stupid, and I just want to skip through it every time. But it does lead to the whole Geonosian like fighting pit thing, which was like my favorite part of the movie, and all the Jedi and the clones coming in to save them, and then them hunting down Dooku was super cool, and the whole fight scene with Dooku was dope. But basically, the last third of the movie was good. Everything leading up to it was kind of mid. I did like Anakin killing the Tusken Raiders while trying to save his mom. I did really like that part, and just like teasing Vader was cool. I did like Jango Fett and Boba Fett being in it. Jango Fett was cool, and like him getting killed by Mace Windu was just like perfect. And then like Boba like grabbing his helmet and like holding it up was also just emotional and really sets up Boba Fett kind of well. I do think they made Anakin like almost like creepy and childish to Padme in this movie, and like their romance was bad, and like the dialogue was comically bad. I don't like sand. Number 7, I'm going with The Force Awakens. This movie and Attack of the Clones, I really went back and forth on a couple times. I just feel like they're both around the same level of mid to me in my heart. I think they're both all right. The Force Awakens, I put a little bit higher than it though, just because I think the story is actually better. What they did with the story after this movie and the rest of the sequel trilogy is another story. But this movie by itself, and that's how I tried to view it. I didn't try to view it in the trilogy sense. I was just trying to judge it just by this movie. Is actually really good. I really like this movie. It sets up Rey well. It sets up Finn well. Poe is like a badass in this movie. What they do with Kylo Ren was decent, and Harrison Ford in this movie was great. I don't know how they convinced him to come back for it, but I'm sure money talks. And him getting killed at the end was absolutely amazing. Like not that it was amazing. I'm not happy he got killed, but it was so emotional. Like genuinely one of the most emotional deaths in Star Wars to me was Han Solo getting killed by Kylo Ren, and then like Chewbacca's there to witness it, and he gets pissed, and Rey is there. It was just that whole scene was set up really well. Some of the things I didn't like about this movie, the biggest thing is that it really ripped off A New Hope. Like, there's so many plot points that kind of are the exact same thing as A New Hope. Like, the Death Star is literally just Starkiller Base in this one, and the same thing with trying to like get onto it to destroy it. It's a little bit different and a little bit unique, but kind of copied it in a lot of ways and just wasn't as good as A New Hope. But still really liked it, and I hate where they took the sequel trilogy after this. But that's my number 7. Moving on to number 6, I'm going to go with The Phantom Menace. This movie was pretty divisive amongst the fans when it first came out. I think the view of it has improved over the years, but people still love to hate on Jar Jar, which is pretty valid criticism. The only other thing I really didn't like with this movie was how young Anakin was in it, which I get there's arguments for him being younger and him being older on both sides. Like it makes sense that he's young. Specifically, them teasing the love between Padme and Anakin when Padme is that much older than him was kind of weird, but we're just not going to think too hard about it. But there's actually a lot of things I really liked about this movie. I thought Qui Gon was an amazing character. I think Darth Maul was a super menacing, awesome villain. I think the pod racing stuff was actually really cool. And Duel of the Fates, I think, just bumps this movie up for me. I would put The Force Awakens and Attack of Clones over this movie if the final duel wasn't in this, because Darth Maul versus Qui Gon and Obi Wan is truly my favorite duel in all of Star Wars, and it's so nostalgic to me, and I just love everything about that whole fight sequence, and just the implications behind the fight too were incredible. So that is my number 6. At number 5, I'm gonna go with Return of the Jedi. When I was a kid, this movie was definitely top 3 for me, but as I've grown older, I've started to not enjoy it as much. And I still think it is a really good Star Wars movie and just a really good movie in general. My big gripe with this movie is everything that takes place on Endor just takes too long. It slows down the pacing, it distracts from the story. The Ewoks are just so boring, and I just want to skip through everything with them. Every time I try to rewatch this movie, I find myself just zoning out and going on my phone when the Ewoks are on screen. I just don't care. They're cool in the end when they help them kill all the stormtroopers, but the parts of Leia being friendly with them and then being captured by him, I just don't care. It's boring to me. But this movie does start out really strong with the whole Jabba's palace scene and Luke coming in to save Han, and I like that Lando ended up redeeming himself from the last movie to come help save Han. And then at the end of the movie, it was very good, that fight between Luke and Vader, and Luke just being super reluctant to actually fight him and then refusing to kill him, standing up to the Emperor, and then Vader redeeming himself, of course, is just literally the climax of Star Wars. And yeah, this movie had a really good beginning, really good end. Just some of the stuff in the middle bored me, so that's why it's only at 5. All right, at number 4, I'm going with Rogue One. This is peak Disney Star Wars to me. I don't think there's really anything horrible I can say about this movie. All positives. I love the Vader fight scene at the end. This is a top 5 scene in all of Star Wars for me, him just mowing down the rebels to try to get the Death Star plans back. I think all the characters in this movie were great. Jyn Erso is a good main character. Andor is an amazing side character, clearly, because they made a show just about him. I think all the other side characters that they made for this movie are awesome. And having Vader in it, Krennic was a good villain. Saw Gerrera in this movie even was actually decent, and I'm a pretty big Saw Gerrera hater. I think he's a pretty annoying, useless character in most of the things they put him in, but in this he actually contributed to the story. And spoiler, but he died, and even his death was cool. Got blown up by the Death Star. And yeah, the only thing I could really hold against it is that it's not one of the main line movies. By that I just mean it's not one of the 1 through 6 movies, so it doesn't feel like it's a necessary watch to understand the story of Star Wars. It's more of a supplemental film. But for being a supplemental film, I don't think you could do any better than this. It is peak. At number 3, I'm gonna go with A New Hope. This movie is just the original, the classic Star Wars movie. I think it is a very just solid movie all around. I don't think there's many bad things you can say about it. I loved all the characters in this movie. Luke, Leia, and Han are just the original golden trio, and they're all really well written in this movie. They all have their own motivations, they all have stuff going on. And I really loved them going on the Death Star, doing all that stuff, and Obi-Wan sacrificing himself in front of Luke so Luke can get away. and then Luke comes back and destroys the Death Star. And Han Solo in this movie is awesome. His motivation with trying to run away from Jabba and then actually just becoming a hero and staying to help Luke is awesome. The only thing I would say against this movie is that the pacing can be a little slow at times, but that doesn't even really bother me because I truly will just sit down and enjoy watching this movie all the way through every single time I watch it. All right, at number 2, I'm going with The Empire Strikes Back. This movie could very easily be number 1. Wouldn't hate on it if you want to argue that it is number 1. This movie opens very well with everything on Hoth. Luke goes out, gets lost, kills the abominable snowman. Han has to come out and save him. And then when they get back, there's a bunch of tension between Han and Leia, which is very entertaining to me. And we're just going to ignore the Leia kissing her brother scene, but that's in there too. Luke also then goes and trains with Yoda, which is a very cool sequence of events, and him having to go into the tunnel and fight the fake Vader was cool. And then going to the Cloud City with Han and Leia, and then getting betrayed by Lando and Vader showing up, and Boba Fett showing up to take Han back to Jabba was cool, and like Luke coming in to try to stop it was awesome. But then the fight scene between Luke and Vader is so intense, and Vader just dropping on a mid fight, "Hey, I'm also your dad," was just a bombshell, obviously, and was like literally the most iconic part of Star Wars for a super long time, might still be till this day. And Luke getting his hand cut off, the original limb being lost. Everything about this movie was awesome. I love every part of it. Nothing bad to say about it. All right, and beating out Empire Strikes Back for the number 1 spot, we're going with Revenge of the Sith. This movie has always been my favorite. Even as a kid, I would watch this movie on repeat. I love everything in it. It's peak Anakin, peak Palpatine, and just the beginning of Anakin fighting Dooku, the tease of him like letting Palpatine coerce him, killing Dooku, and then he comes back to Coruscant. We get everything with Padme going on. Anakin stressing about that. Palpatine just continues to manipulate him. We get Obi-Wan trying to get him to spy on the Emperor. Not the Emperor at this point, Supreme Chancellor, my bad. But Anakin just being torn apart, not knowing what to do. And then Obi-Wan gets chosen to go fight Grievous and then just gets more jealous over Obi-Wan. All the build up to Mace Windu being alerted and Mace Windu going to fight him with the Jedi. That whole fight is amazing. Like Palpatine just mopping the floor with the other 3 Jedi. Might have been a little quick, might have been a little unrealistic, but still really cool. And then the fight between him and Windu is awesome, and I like that Windu wins, and Anakin just has to show up and ruin it for him and help kill him, but might still be alive, you never know. And then Order 66 is just super emotional, obviously. Probably more emotional than most Star Wars films really get to because it's just so many characters that we've met just all dying, and all because Anakin chose to go down this path. And then the Obi-Wan and Grievous fight is also really cool. And then obviously he gets betrayed by Commander Cody, which is also just like sad because him and Cody were bros. And the only thing I'm really going to say against this movie is Padme dying was a little bit dumb, but I kind of get it. But the fight between Anakin and Obi-Wan was literally my second favorite fight to Duel of the Fates. So that part's pretty peak as well. And then we get Yoda and Palpatine's fight, which isn't super crazy, but it is cool to have it in there. And that pretty much just came to a draw, and Palpatine gets lucky, which he does a lot in this movie. But yeah, that's my number 1. Love everything about this movie. Love watching Anakin's fall and Vader's rise. So if you want to argue with me, please do so. Let me know what your favorite Star Wars movies are. And I might make another video about this in the future where I go through like the shows and the movies, and maybe I'll make a tier list video or something. But if you have any other video recommendations or anything you want to see me rank, just let me know. I have fun doing it, so argue with me in the comments though.